Happy Friday to you. Today we are in Matthew chapter 6. Are you a worrier? Are you one that when you go to bed at night and you lay your head down on the pillow, you have a hard time going to sleep because your mind is constantly thinking about all of the things that you need to do and all of the things that are going on in your life? And then if you actually do get to go to sleep, when you wake up in the morning, your mind immediately picks up where it left off at night, and you continue to worry throughout the day, and you just worry. I think we've all done that before. Worry has an interesting history in that word, and the Old English definition of the word means to strangle or to choke. Now, doesn't that describe what you feel when you are worrying? You just feel like that weight of the issue that you're trying to face or you're trying to solve, it just feels like it's just choking the air off of your life and just sucking the life out of you. And in Matthew chapter 6, Jesus speaks about worrying. He talks about that. And so if you're dealing with worry today or in the future, listen to Jesus' words. In Matthew 6, verse 25, he says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to his life? And why do you worry about clothes? See how the lilies of the field grow? They do not labor or spin. Yet I tell you that not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that's how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today, and tomorrow is thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? So do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Several things in this. First is this: God talks about the lilies of the field, and he talks about the birds of the air. And he says that God takes care of the birds and he takes care of the lilies. And I have a little fun with this, and he in a sense is saying, have you ever seen a bird worry? I mean, have you ever seen a bird pacing back and forth, worrying about how the bird is going to take care of his family and how he's going to get enough worms for the babies in the nest? And I mean, have you ever seen a bird worry? Or have you ever seen a lily? Have you ever seen a flower worry? Well, of course not. I mean, that's goofy even just to think about it. And that's the point, that he says that God takes care of the birds, and he takes care of the lilies, and he takes care of the flowers, and he takes care of them. And he goes beyond that, though, and he says that if God takes care of the birds and he takes care of the flowers, God will take care of you. Why? Verse 26, he says, "Are you not much more valuable than they?" He's talking about the birds. "Are you not much more valuable than birds?" I mean, God takes care of the birds, and he says, you're more valuable to him than the birds are. And then he goes on talking about the flowers. He says, speaking of the lilies, he says, "If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and tomorrow it's thrown into the fire, will he not much more clothe you?" And the point Jesus is trying to make is this: God takes care of the birds and he takes care of the flowers, but he loves you even more than he loves them. And if he takes care of them, how much more is he going to take care of you? And so if he's going to do that, then why should we worry? Why should we worry about what's going to happen and if God's going to take care of us? Because he is. And because of that, he says this. He sums it up in verse 33, familiar passage. He says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." Instead of worrying about the things, instead of worrying about if God's going to take care of clothes and food and those things, instead of worrying about those things, I mean, he says that's what the world does. They worry about those things, and if they have time, they might seek God. But Jesus says, no, do the other. He says, flip it around. He says, instead of worrying about all of those things, he says, seek God first. And if you'll do that, he says, God will take care of the other things. He will. Because he loves you more than the birds. He loves you more than the flowers. You mean more to him than those. The Bible says that you were made in his image. He loves you that much. And we shouldn't worry. We shouldn't have to worry about those things, because God will take care of those if we'll seek him first and trust him. That's going to do it for this first week. Hope you've enjoyed this time. Have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you on Monday with Matthew chapter 7.